Hi and welcome to Leitrim Daily. My name is Breifne Earley and you are listening to episode 106 of the podcast. Today we are previewing the action of the next couple of days on the sports fields up and down the county and maybe a little bit further afield with a Leitrim interest. The big game of the weekend is the County Hurling Senior Final between Carrick Hurling and Cluainin or Manor Hamilton. That game is at 2 p.m. on Saturday, tomorrow afternoon, in Park Sean McDiarmid. And we speak to Liam Moreton of Carrick Hurling and Mark Boyle, one of the selectors with Cluainin, ahead of that game. I'll also be catching up with St Joseph's player Michelle Heslin after her side's defeat in the Connacht Intermediate Club Championship last weekend against St Nathy's of Sligo. A yellow card for her in that game, much like the county final. Unfortunately, in this instance, the result didn't go the way of her side and they are disappointed after that heartbreaking defeat. However, looking back on a very positive season, we have a chat later in the show. I'll also be talking to the chairman of the Ladies Football County Board, Aidan Heron, with two major issues in our discussion. The first being their fundraiser next week in the Landmark Central in Carrick and Shannon, where all of the ladies football teams in the county have come together to run a massive fundraiser for all of the underage projects that are ongoing in the county. We'll hear more about that from Aidan, and he'll also tell us about the process and the final result for recruiting a new first team manager for Leitrim Ladies. Hugh Donnelly is the new manager, ratified at a county board meeting last week, and he will lead the girls into action in Division 4 of the league next season. We'll find out a bit more about that whole situation from Aidan later on in the show. Our final interview this week will be with Mohill's Dearbhaile of Beirne. Herself and her Peamount United teammates secured their place in the FAI Senior Women's Cup Final to be held in the Aviva Stadium on the 3rd of November. It's a massive day out for everybody involved in women's football, and it is Dearbhaile's third time to be in the centrepiece event of the game in this country. Glenfarne's Alva Clancy had hoped to be on the opposing side for that game, but unfortunately her Galway Women's FC team were defeated by Wexford last week, which means that Wexford will be the opponents for Dearbhaile's side in 2 weeks' time. Anyway, let's get on with the show, and we're going to start with hurling. And first up, Liam Moreton of Carrick Hurling. We've talked a lot about Gaelic games on the show over the last 3 or 4 months, and with the football championship now complete, our attention turns to hurling. And of course, this weekend sees the senior county final between Carrick Hurling Club and Cluainin of Manor Hamilton. I'm joined by Liam Moreton of Carrick Hurling Club to talk about his side's chances this weekend. But before we start, I have to say, first of all, congratulations, Liam. County champions last week at intermediate level in football with Leitrim Gaels. How has the week been since the big victory?
Thanks very much, Breifne. Look, it's been an amazing week for Leitrim Gaels, for the club and for everyone involved in the village. Our first ever intermediate final to win. So look, it was brilliant to get across the line, and needless to say, the celebrations are still ongoing here in the village.
Yeah, no, I was out myself for a couple of drinks on Sunday night after the game, and it's been great. So how has preparation been this week with the county final, the hurling final, with all the celebrating going on?
Well, look, I suppose last Sunday, that was the last thing we were thinking about, was a hurling final this Saturday. But as the week has went on, our hurling manager and the management team, of course, have been on to us. So we've tried to knuckle down the couple of lads that are involved in the hurling. Myself and the three brothers and Stephen Goldrick. So look, we got out training during the week, and as I said, we've tried to have a hurl, in our hand as the weeks have been progressing as well up to this semi-final and up to the final this weekend.
Tell us a bit about hurling in the county works. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about hurling. The Iomaint win earlier in the year. The under-16s or under-17s had a great win as well in the Challenge Trophy that they were involved in.
They did, yeah.
Through the summer. So hurling is kind of at its probably highest profile it's been for many years. Of course, we can't forget Carrick's record last year in the Connacht Club Championship, winning the Junior Championship. That was huge as well. There really is a bit of a surge in hurling over the last few years. But how big is the sport in the county? How many clubs take part?
Look, you talk about Leitrim hurling, and a lot of people might laugh at you, but most definitely last year in particular, like winning the Iomaint Cup, and ourselves, Carrick Hurling, going on and winning the the Connacht final, and then going on and just narrowly losing the All-Ireland semi-final, by a single point. Like, it definitely is going places, and seeing the under-17s, as you just said, winning the Celtic Challenge, that was an amazing achievement as well for them young lads. And definitely Leitrim Hurling was put on the map last year, and it is on the up. There is only the two clubs, sadly. We're down now to Cluainin, Manorhamilton and Carrick Hurling Club. We've lost Ballinamore and we've lost Gortletra, but a couple of them lads are still picking up a hurl. So that is great, and it's good to keep that going. But I suppose in years to come, it's very important that we see maybe them clubs getting back up and gaining senior teams again, which is going to be important, vital, I suppose, to Leitrim progressing if the hurling is to progress,
In terms of the game on Saturday, obviously it's the county final. Carrick have been past masters at this. I think there's only 2 years in the last maybe 20 or so where you haven't been the champions. Gortletra won one, I think, in the late 90s or early 90s. And as far as I know, Manorhamilton won one recently enough. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely, yeah. Look, you've caught me on the hop now. I know ourselves last year and the year before, I think, Manorhamilton then, and Gortletra have won more recent than the 90s. Like, they've won there, I think, maybe 5 years ago. I think Gortletra won the senior title. So, look at I know Carrick Hurling have quite a few of them on paper. Myself, I've only 3 or 4 to my name. So they are hard enough come by. It's a different panel of players year in, year out. So when you do get to one, they're not that easy one. So you just have to take your chances on the day. And look, at this Saturday, it's going to be tough. I know we were there last year, and there was nothing between the two teams. So it's going to be the very same on Saturday. It's going to come down to the hungrier team on the day and who wants it more.
In terms of, I suppose, Leitrim Hurling, you all come together to play in the green jersey for the National League and the Laurie Mara next year, the Nicky Rackard Trophy or Championship. In terms of being on opposing sides of that this weekend, you're playing Manor, you know them so well. How much of an impact does that come into the game?
Look, we know each other very well through the county setup and from playing each other at club level. I don't look into that too much personally myself, and a lot of the other lads on the team I'm sure are much similar, but we just try and get on with it, and we shake hands at the start of the game, and we go for the ball and made the best team win on the day, as I do say. I do try myself to take my focus off who I'm marking or anyone that might maybe around me, and just try and focus on the ball and doing the simple things right and getting the simple things right. And if we can do that on the day, I know we'll come out on top.
In terms of the game this weekend, who are the players from Carrick that someone who just walked in for their first ever hurling game might look out for on the Carrick team?
We're a very strong panel. The team hasn't been named, needless to say, but regardless of who togs out or who starts on the starting 15, every one of the Carrick lads, they're going to put their head where a lot of men wouldn't put their boot, and I think it's going to be a fantastic game. And if we, as I said, if we do the simple things right and a little bit of luck swings our way, we'll come out on top. But personally, I feel it's an amazing bunch of players that we have there in Carrick Hurling Club, and everyone is as strong as each other. And I'm not going to pick out on any standout players, because personally, looking back on last year's performance, everyone really did step up to the mark, and even the young lads that have come through, the likes of Jeremy Kelleher and Liam Phelan, these lads, they're a huge help to the team, and they're going to be an extra push on to us this year as well, with the help of God.
Well, listen, the very best of luck to you this weekend in the county final. Liam Moreton of Carrick Hurling, and of course Leitrim Gaels as well. To yourself, your 3 brothers and your teammates, we wish you the very best of luck in the game.
Thanks very much, Breifne. Thank you.
Of course, for any final we have to have 2 teams, and facing Carrick on Saturday afternoon in Park Sean McDermott is, of course, Cluainin of Manorhamilton and the general Manorhamilton area. And I'm joined by Mark Boyle, who is a selector with that team on Saturday, and also been involved in the club in various roles on the committee and coaching over the years. Mark, welcome to the programme.
Thanks, Breifne. Thanks for talking to us.
Let's start first of all by telling me a little bit about the club and Cluainin. What does that mean?
Cluainin, I suppose Cluainin is the Irish name for Manorhamilton. It's the small meadow, and Mont is hurling, Cluainin hurling.
So it's pretty self-explanatory what it is. It's like Ronseal. It does exactly what it says on the tin. Mark, it's a very small community within the county, the hurling, and you're facing into the only other club in the county in the senior final this year. Manorhamilton have come on in leaps and bounds over the last decade or so, and they're really in with a shout of winning this game, which possibly wouldn't have been heard of when Carrick run that massive run, probably over a decade of just winning the championship year after year after year. But now people are looking at this game kind of going, Manorhamilton are in this, and the success of the Manor players on the inter-county team over the year has really seen the club rise up to really be a challenger and a contender for this title on Saturday.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, when I'd have for this team, we would basically be making up the numbers, just turning up for the occasion of the final, and we'd live in hope more than feeling that we could actually win a title. But then things changed, I suppose. Micheál Dolan, he started an underage structure, and a lot of these guys were under his tutelage. I mean, proud moment was this year was when we had 3 or 4 guys involved in the Lower Mar final in Croke Park, and to me that was real progress, and it was a big shot in the arm for hurling in Leitrim in general, but not on North Leitrim. I can see it at underage. I'm involved in coaching underage here in Manorhamilton. We've kick-started again. It's been dormant for a few years, and you can see the appeal with the kids, and they want to play hurling. And I mean, at the end of the day, we can only play what's in front of us. So sadly, we only have one team to play, and I'm sure Carrick would say the same. But at the end of the day, it's the showpiece of the hurling calendar in Leitrim, and it's a county title, and every county, any player that plays a county final, that it's a proud moment if you can win a medal. So.
We spoke to Liam Moreton earlier in the show, and he talked about how there was 5 players from the Carrick team playing with Leitrim Gaels last weekend. Now, most observers from the outside, in this county in particular, would expect that you had a huge overlap with the football team that won the senior championship last week, but that's not actually the case. The number of players who play both in Manorhamilton is very small. I think it's only down to 1 player really in terms of the starting teams. How difficult is it to do that in a small rural area like Manorhamilton?
Yeah, I mean, obviously football is the number one sport in Leitrim, and they're proud footballing county. We have 1 player who we could classify as a dual player, but then I suppose in most counties now, most the top counties involved in hurling and football, players won't play both sport codes anymore. I suppose it's just got so professional with the preparation. But I suppose our bunch of lads, they would have dallied with football, but they're real hurling people at heart, I suppose, and that's the sport they love. They really love. They do play football, but they don't put the same amount of passion as, So, but saying that, the football people are very supportive of us. They're rowing behind us, and you'll see a lot of faces in the stands on Sunday that were there also last week cheering on the footballers. So,
in terms of the game this week, what are the chances? What's your expectation of the game going into it?
Well, last year we were very competitive. We were there about the end. It was a very tight game, very low scoring game, and I genuinely thought we could have taken them at half time. I thought we played some really good hurling in the first half. Unfortunately, we just couldn't kick on. The finals are like that, But we're a very small squad. We're a very tight squad, and everyone knows each other well. Everyone knows their role, and that can be an advantage as well, And a lot of these guys, they've played against the best at county level, so they won't be fazed by it at all. And I think we've every chance, every chance on the day.
Yeah, it's interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I was up doing the previews for the footballers, and they trained on a Sunday morning, I think maybe 2 weekends ago, and you came on and trained straight afterwards. And to be honest, it was very difficult to tell which team was the the one in the I suppose the senior grade, you were both at the same intensity in terms of the session. You were both at the same focus. You looked, in terms of having the proper gear and the proper equipment, and it's a long way from, like, when I played a little bit of hurling back 20 odd years ago, it was ragball rovers. You showed up, if you had a hurl, it was an advantage, or you borrowed one, whereas you just seem to be as professional as the senior footballers, which is a new departure for the sport in the county really over the last couple of years. That's really just kicked on.
Well, as I said, a lot of these guys would have been in county panels, development squads, and they would have seen how professional it was, so they wouldn't accept, something haphazard. And I mean, at the end of the day, we brought in outside coaches to help out at different sessions, and they've commanded, that everyone buys into it 100%, and that's what we want. We want everyone focused, because you can be sure that Carrick are just as professional and just working just as hard. So we have to meet that. We have to meet that intensity on the day. Otherwise, we're not going to be there, at the end.
Well, listen, Mark, thank you very much for joining us. It is, of course, Manorhamilton's 50th year of Gaelic Games in the Glencar Manorhamilton Club, and with Cluainin also involved in that. So the very, very best of luck in the game on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. in Avantgarde Park, Sean McDermott. It's a great day. And Manorhamilton really has been booming this year. The finalists in the Ladies Senior Championship, they've also won obviously last week we discussed it heavily enough on the show, they've won the Senior Football Championship, and now they'll be making a serious bid to become the Senior Hurling Champions as well. So the very best of luck to you and your team in that quest, Mark.
Thank you very much.
In the world of women's soccer this week, there has been some pretty heavy Leitrim interest in the two semi-finals of the FAI Women's Senior Cup. Now, it was a bad day at the office last week for Alva Clancy and her Galway Women's FC teammates as they went down to Wexford. But it was a great day for Mohill's Dearbhaile Beirne, and she joins me now to talk about her semi-final success with her Peamount side last night in a game against their title rivals Shelbourne. Dearbhaile, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Breifne.
It's been a while. We've 100 shows done and we haven't had you on, which is a bit surprising because you've been a constant fixture in every conversation about women's sport in the county. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Tell us a bit about the game last night, a 2-0 win over your title challenger Shelbourne. It must have been sweet to kind of get that first blood. I know you've played them a couple of times this year, but it must have been nice to get that cup final place ahead of them.
Yeah, it was a very tough game now last night because we've played them a couple of times throughout the year, as you've said, and it's never been an easy game, but I think it'll give us great confidence now going forward the next couple of weeks to finish off the league and then to go on and take on Wexford in the cup final after beating a quality side like Shelbourne.
Of course, the cup final takes place in the rather salubrious setting of the Aviva Stadium. You're no stranger there. You've played there a few times before. It's always nice to get back there though, right?
Yeah, I think at the start of the year, it's always a competition that everyone kind of highlights for themselves, and every team wants to get there at the end of the year. It gives you a great chance to showcase your talents and your skills in front of everyone. So it's a really big occasion, and I hope this year now that I can change my luck there and that hopefully we can come out with a win.
It hasn't been a great hunting ground for you, has it?
Not to date so far, no, but hopefully we'll change that now on the 3rd November.
Now, you've been there in a couple of different jerseys. You were there with Shells yourself, you were there with UCD, and now you go back with Peamount. What number final is this? Is it 3 or 4?
I think it's 3. Yeah, it's my 3rd one now, so
third time
hopefully
lucky.
3rd time's the charm, yeah.
Absolutely. In terms of the game last night, talk us through, because I saw a video today and we've shared that on our social media, and the second goal in particular you played a massive role in. That was a pretty crunching tackle. You could actually hear it on the video, and then you just went off on a run and played the ball off, and it was just stuck in the back of the net from there. So like, that's kind of what you've been doing for years, so it's nice to kind of see it on video on a big setting like the semi-final.
Yeah, it was a really tough game from the start. We went in at half time, then 0-0. Both teams had chances. I think we might have had the better chances of the two in the first half, so it was nice to actually take them chances in the second half. Then we went 1-0 up from a counter attack, and then, as you said, I was involved then in the second goal. So I think it was just on everyone's mind to keep pressing Shells that we'd force them into mistakes. If we won the ball back off them, then we were strong enough on the counter to go and score goals.
In terms of the overall season, the FAI Cup final is where people would have expected Peamount. They recruited really well over the closed season last year, and you've been top of the league all season. 2 games to go, 2 points clear, with 2 very winnable games. How much can you allow your mind to concentrate on the cup final, or are you still kind of thinking about the league title and the European Champions League qualification that comes with that?
Yeah, I think this year couldn't have went any better for us at all. If you had to ask us at the start of the year what would our aims be or where would we like to be at the end of the season, we would have said, look, put us in the shake-up for the league at the end, and if we get a chance in the FAI Cup as well, that'd be a major aim. But now for the next 2 weeks, we really have to focus on our last 2 league games, and then hopefully if we get over them hurdles, then we'll be able to focus on the FAI Cup final.
In terms of the final itself, you face Wexford, a team you know only too well over the years. You are the form team this year, but what are you expecting the final to be like?
Yeah, we've played Wexford now a good few times over the last couple of years. This year now is the first year we've really kind of got over them, and we've beaten them 3 times in the league, but that doesn't really mean much. Them 3 wins were 1-0, 2-1, 2-1, so it's going to be a really tight game, and I think especially when it goes to the Aviva, it's a big pitch, big stadium, it's very open, and it gives both teams a great chance to attack. So I think it'll be a good end-to-end game with hopefully a couple of goals, and I'd be hoping that we'd be the team to come out on the good side of it.
In terms of the game itself, even in your short term and time in the game, you're still quite young. I think you're only maybe 21, 22. In terms of the changes you've seen since your first appearance in the Aviva, I think you might have been, 16 or 17 when that first happened back for Shells. How has the game progressed in terms of the standing within the sporting community in the country?
Oh yeah, every year the standards are improving. There's more teams coming into the league, and then obviously there's younger players coming up all the time. And if you ever think that you're settling down and you're settled into a team and you're taking your place, you need to think about that again, because there's always new players coming on the scene and players bursting out of nowhere that you wouldn't have even heard of before. And that's really helped lift the standard of the league in the last couple of years.
In terms of your own position within the game, obviously you made your international debut, I think it was last year. You've played most of this season at left back, and how has that affected your own role and your own chances of getting back in that Ireland squad, particularly with the new manager that's come in now?
Yeah, so I was playing on the wing up until this year really, and then I was kind of put into left back this year, but it's kind of helped me a lot because I've been able to focus more on my defensive game as well, and I was able to bring attack and defence into that position. So the new manager has come into the Ireland squad, and hopefully now I'll be able to impress her in the coming weeks. Obviously there's only a couple of weeks left in this season, but then pushing into next season I'd have to look at trying to prove myself there as well.
Of course, Eileen Gleeson would be well familiar with everything you have to offer. She's the assistant manager at the Irish level. She's obviously been your club manager for a couple of seasons as well.
Yeah, it's great to see Eileen getting an opportunity. She really deserves it, and she's put in so much work with the women's game in Ireland. So hopefully now she's going to lobby very hard as well for the National League players, because she knows what we're putting in, week out, and we're putting in just as much work as girls are that are abroad and stuff. So we'll just have to see how that develops now.
On a local level, obviously Alva also playing in the Women's League. She's with Galway, but there's 2 young talents coming through in the shape of Myrne Devaney and Leah Fox from Manor Hamilton. If you could give them a bit of advice now, they're probably at the age when you first played in that FAI Cup final. What would your advice to the 2 girls be?
Yeah, I think just for them to keep working hard. You're never going to get things handed to you, so you have to just keep your head down. And I know the 2 of them are excellent players. I've seen them play like a couple of times in Gaelic and soccer, and they really are heading in the right direction. So I think they just need to keep doing what they're doing and listen to their coaches and their parents and stuff. They're not going to point them in the wrong direction.
You mentioned playing them in Gaelic and seeing them in Gaelic. You played with Mohill yourself this year. Any chance we might see you back in the green and gold Leitrim? Or I know they have a new manager coming on stream for next season as well. Or is that ship sailed?
I don't know now. There's not enough hours in the day sometimes to play everything. So I think I'll have to just wait and see what way the soccer is panning out.
Well, that's a fairly diplomatic answer. I like it. Listen, Dearbhaile, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's been a tough year for you off the field as well. So congratulations on everything you've achieved, and the very best of luck for the last 2 league games and of course in the Aviva on the 3rd of November. And I think tickets are €15. You get the men's and the women's game, but there is Leitrim interest. And I think I would urge anyone who's listening from the county who's any interest in soccer at all to get themselves to the Aviva and cheer Dearbhaile on. You'll get 2 cracking games of football for it as well. Dearbhaile, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Breifne.
We know the cost involved in keeping sports on the road here in the county, and ladies football is no different to anybody else. So next week in Carrick and Shannon in the Landmark Hotel, the Kube is coming to town, and of course you're familiar with the ITV show Philip Schofield. Well, our own version of Philip Schofield's not really. He won't be presenting the show, but the chairman of the county board, Aidan Heron, joins me now to talk about what exactly is involved on the night, how it's going to work, and more importantly, how people can come along and support their own club and their club mates, and maybe even win some money for their club on the night. Aidan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Breifne. Good to be here.
You're more than welcome. Open invitation as always. Aidan, tell us a bit about the event, the Kube. It's in the Landmark, as I mentioned, and how is it going to work on the night? What's the night entail?
The Kube, Breifne, we've got the 36 contestants. We have some VIP contestants who came in as well, which was great. And there's six players in each heat. So there's 6 heats altogether. So actually the winner of each heat goes into a quarter-final, then it goes into semi-finals, then it goes into the finals. And the winner of the final obviously gets €1,000 plus €500 to their club or their community, ever what they went to give it to. It's up to them.
So those people are made up of representatives from each of the ladies' football clubs around the county?
Yeah, they get a sponsored person like Claire owns their captain, Leitrim captain, like she went out herself and she's a contestant and she got people to sponsor her, and with the likes of Kevin Bliss and Ryan O'Rourke, Hubert McCormick, the mayor of Drumshambo, just different. And then we just got players from each club doing as well, from Fianna, from Anna Duff, Gortaletra, Willen, all right around to Drumahare, Manor Hamilton, Drumkeirn, right around the whole country with people representing their area, which is great.
I think you're pretty much guaranteed to have forgotten a club there, so we better mention every single club is represented in the county. In terms of the actual night, how can the public participate in the night?
Well, every contestant, like they're representing an area of their club, so we're asking anyone who wants to represent the person of that area to come and wear the club jersey if they can, or have the same colour. So it's like every club has this colours and this bit of banter going on and different stuff, and it's like a sort of a blitz type thing, because everybody is there at it, and someone has to win it at the end of the night, So like the entry fee for adults is €20, and under 12 is €5, just because they want to bring kids with them. We didn't expect to charge them that much. So, and minor is €10. So we're just sort of trying to break it down, so everybody gets an opportunity to go in there without paying, like €20. So we wanted a family affair as well, and even kids supporting, like Ryan O'Rourke, his heroes as well, that they want to go on. And of course Kevin Bleston would be well known around, and all people want to go and see him go and all that sort of stuff. So it's all just a real fun atmosphere, and just cheering on your person when they're going in to represent your area in the competition.
The money raised on the night, Aidan, what exactly is that going to support within the county board's activities?
It's going to support our underage development, mainly. There will be percentage, obviously, for the Leitrim ladies. That has to be front foremost as well. It goes right through to under 9s, under 11s, 13s, 15s, 17s development teams. And obviously that's for buses, going to venues, pitches, hiring pitches, foods, whatever is required of the management team. And obviously when you go to the senior team, then travelling to games, bus costs, food after games, pitches for their training as well. It's amazing how it adds up. It's like if you have a manager and you have the manager there for the night to train the county team, and you have the pitch there as well, and then you have food for the team after. Like, you're talking about €400 or €500 a night.
It's a very, very costly exercise. In terms of the county team going forward, of course, there has been the positive news this week of the appointment of Hugh Donnelly as the new adult football manager. We call it that. It's intermediate grade in Championship Division 4 in the league. obviously, as chairman, you've been involved in that process, or at least you've been aware of that process. What impact is this appointment going to have on the team going forward?
The impact will be good. And like we had a good few who came in for the job, and we had a independent interview committee: Declan Bowen, Noeline McLaughlin, and another gentleman from the Conmine and from the Connacht Council. They were the independent interview committee. Last year we sort of rushed into them because the county board was just starting up again, and it was just rush, and we didn't have chance to look in really proper management. They're all gone here, so like we were hoping how we did get would have done the job, and obviously didn't work out that way. Even though I am grateful to Danny Clark for sticking it out and doing a great job for the year. But just when the interview committee took on the job of interviewing the people interested in being a county manager for Leitrim Ladies, it was an opportunity for us to sit back, as we were doing our own stuff with the Kube and that, and we just didn't want any distraction with that job, because it had to be a vital job to have a good manager in place. So this committee came in and they done it, and they interviewed on 2 nights at the Bush Hotel in Carrick and Shannon, and interviewed all the people, and they went on a point system for different things, like experience, their different levels of county management or in previous and that sort of stuff. And then they came to 2 recommendations, and one was a close one to home, and the other was Hugh Donnelly in Tyrone. And we did have a good look at it, and myself and PJ sort of looked at it in, and the executive, Paul Rowley, and a few more looked at them, and we had a good discussion on it. And we felt that Hugh Donnelly was the man that would do the good job. He has his own team. We didn't have to go looking for selectors and all them headaches you don't want, from your own county. So they're coming in full on to take on the job. We have our own liaison officer, which would be Melissa Hewitt and probably Mairead McCauley. That's to be ratified yet, but then it just gives us a chance to do our stuff, and the manager does all his stuff. Like last year we were booking pitches, and it was just trying to get pitches was frustrating and going everywhere, and it was just so hard, and the fair play to the team who was stuck with it, because for them you didn't know where you were going from week to week, and it was very unprofessional looking, but there's nothing we could do. And obviously the weather wasn't great either because of the climate of January, February. We still got hit with heavy rain, and pitches weren't available, and everybody was not given us a pitch, and you could see why, because they didn't want the pitch getting trashed, and the centre of excellence wasn't sort of up to the nick, because they had county trained themselves with the senior men's and minor and under 20. So like it was a hard battle this year to get a permanent ground where you could know you were training every week. So setting up early this year, like October, we're going to meet the manager tomorrow night, have a good discussion with him about what and information he wants, and we have to provide that with him, and he takes it from there on in. And it just means we can sit back and run the county board in the best way we can without having to be caught up in the women's management process as we were this year.
Aidan, it sounds like you're miles down the road from where you were 12 months ago when you came in as a brand new board, as you mentioned. Yourself and PJ and Martina Hackett from Beirne and others deserve huge credit. Paul Rowley has been around all year as well, and others, it has to be said, but they're the ones that kind of have been on my radar this year. So congratulations to everybody who's been involved in the ladies board this year, because survival at intermediate grade and a new position and this fundraising initiative that's really brought all of those clubs back together when it's been a bit fractious in the sport in the county. You must be happy with how the year has panned out and has developed into where you are at the moment.
Oh, certainly, Breifne. Yeah, it has been like there was a few blind spots, you could say, during the year, but the main thing was our county girls sticking together, even though they were losing, and it's disheartening. You're training every week and you're just getting pipped every time, and you should be sort of maybe getting a win, so for our girls to hang in right to the bitter end and then just to finish off with style was just brilliant, for our girls. I was so delighted for them, because it's very hard to keep the head up when you're getting knocked back, and they kept the head up right to the last day, and that's when they showed their total just pride in the jersey and went out and gave an exhibition of football, which was really sort of not there all year, but I mean, wasn't far from it. So good on them. And then we got a finance committee who came in. They were just being brilliant, really, really good and fun as well. Not serious stuff, fun, and everybody working together and doing the right things. And I think that's what a county board should be. Everybody, it has to be enjoyable as well. It's not just a slog on people not getting on well and doing things against each other. No, that's not a county board. County board is like a family. You work together, you be honest with each other and help each other out. And hopefully the board will live to the strength of that and survive without too many hiccups in the future.
Absolutely, Aidan. And I'd like to wish you the best of luck as you proceed towards the Kube next week, but really into the next season and all of the good things that seem to be heading the way of ladies football. It's lovely to be talking about positive news stories about ladies football on the show. Thank you so much, Aidan, for everything during your season. The very best of luck with the Kube next weekend. And of course, if there's people listening, make sure they make their way to the Landmark Central next Saturday evening. What time does everything kick off at, Aidan?
8 o'clock, 6:30, all the contestants have to be there ready to kick off.
Excellent. Well, listen, the very best luck to everybody, and hopefully it's a massive success and raises a load of money for the good work that you have in the roadmap ahead towards maybe some more days out in Croke Park and championship success. Anyway, Aidan, it's been fantastic. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you, Breifne, and thanks for all the coverage you've done this year. Been brilliant, and everybody enjoyed being on the field, interviewing them. It was just making them special, and it was great to have that. So thank you, and wish you good luck on the great job you're doing, and hope you get the support and whatever you need to keep that going and expand more in the future.
Thanks very much, Aidan. All the attention last weekend was on Park Sean McDermott and the county finals that took place, but there was one other team in action over the weekend in Championship Fair, and that was, of course, St. Joseph's of Havas and Carrick, who took part in the Intermediate Championship final in Connacht, and they were unfortunately beaten by St. Nathy's of Sligo in that decider in Ballyhonus on Sunday afternoon. I'm joined by Michelle Heslin. Michelle, it was a tough day at the office for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't really turn out now to be the result that we had hoped for, but nothing really we can do with that now. Obviously, looking back, it was a very positive year overall, so obviously it is hugely disappointed to end with a loss.
Now, I don't like to criticise referees, but I have seen the video back of a couple of challenges that was doing the rounds today on social media, and yeah, okay, so the story is, for people who haven't seen the video, we might share it on our Facebook group as well, but for the people who haven't seen the video, there was two incidents where you just absolutely poleaxed twice, and the second one, you were on a run, you got taken out of it, and the referee had a chat with his linesman or whatever, came back and sin-binned both players. It made absolutely no sense. What was the view on the day in the game?
Yeah, I suppose probably before the game had started, we had been told after the two captains had went up, that the referee kind of wasn't going to tolerate any kind of harsh tackling, that it was basically, you couldn't really put your hands on the ball, there was just hands out the whole time. So I suppose maybe for anybody that has seen the videos that has been on social media, I suppose probably maybe for the first instant, you could kind of have two opinions on it, whereas obviously there is kind of that slight shift of motion, to right to left, but you do have to question, why was that person, in on top of you, so quickly, when all it was just, you were allowed to have your hands out. In terms of the second incident, I just think it's absolutely crazy. I don't think it was a yellow card for either player. I suppose it was probably more so maybe a coming together. I know Kira from playing county football, she's a very strong girl, same as myself, so obviously, she wasn't going to let me buy her, or I wasn't going to couldn't get by her either, so it probably just looked to be maybe a more so coming together than anything else. And obviously the referee made his decision, and so you just have to go along with that and try and get on with the game. He's not going to change his mind.
In terms of the impact that had on the game, what stage of the game was that in terms of the scoreline and time left?
That just happened before half time. I'm not fully sure what the scoreline was. I think we might have been down maybe 2 or 3 points. I'm not fully sure, to be honest. But then for the second half, then I think we had pulled it back then to 10 points apiece, and then we ended up getting another player then, St. Vincent. So I think obviously for the second half, probably people would argue maybe St. Nathy's probably were the better team. But I just think from our point of view, we never kind of really got to play with our full 15, or we could never then, therefore we couldn't play to our full potential, so.
In terms of the actual season, though, as you mentioned, it has been a good year. Your third consecutive championship title here in Leitrim. You're competitive in the Connacht Championship, albeit at intermediate level, but I think that's the grade that Leitrim teams are probably at in the grander scheme of things. How enjoyable has it been for you?
Yeah, look, if somebody was to say to you starting back at the beginning of the year, that you were going to win your third senior title in Leitrim and get to a Connacht final, you'd bite their arm off. We went through, after winning our first county final in 2012, we had some fierce disappointing days, and you were thinking to yourself, God, am I ever going to get another one again? But this year, we just kind of set out, to play well in every game, take each game as it came, and obviously our full focus was on the league. And although we did get to the final and lose, I think we had a lot of positives to take from it as well, and I think we did bring that into the championship as well, so I think obviously getting the win then on county final day and progressing on to Connacht then, and for anybody that did travel over to Ballina to the Kilmore Moy game, I think it was probably one of our best performances that we had put in, to go from being 3 points down to coming back and at one stage been up by 9 and end up winning by 4, was just unbelievable, and then even semi-final against Kilglass, that was in a very nip and tuck game, so it was, and we barely scraped out of Carrick with the win, and then obviously getting to the Connacht final, I suppose maybe kind of it just didn't go our way on the day, but we have so much to be positive about. Young girls have come into the team this year that are only 16, 17 years of age, and have pushed on so much, so we definitely have lots to look forward to for the future.
That's great on the club scene, but also on the county scene, there's a bit of daylight for what's been a troubling period in Leitrim's history. New manager in place, that must be exciting as a player who's been one of the stalwarts of the team, one of the leaders of the team over the last couple of years. You must be very excited about what that means for the team.
Yeah, definitely. It's very exciting and it's extremely positive, to have a manager in place as early as this. I know last year we started off pretty late. I say probably most teams would have had at least 2 or 3 months training done ahead of us, so we were throughout the year we were always going to be playing catch up. So obviously now we have a lot of time to plan, and for girls that they will hopefully know the setup, so they can make arrangements if they want to commit for the 2020 year.
No, that's really, really good. How much do you know about the new guy?
Just knowing that he seems to have a lot of experience managing Ulster minor teams between Fermanagh, Donegal. So hopefully with him having that good background with minors, that he obviously will be hoping to push them on to the senior team now this year. And
Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. Hard luck the way your season ended. I know it's been a rough week for you as well. You've had a bit of a procedure today. You're going to take a couple of days to recover from that. It's a quiet couple of days after laser eye surgery, I believe you've been undertaking.
Yeah, a few well-deserved rest days.
You should have brought that referee with you from last week as well. He might have taken advantage of that himself. Michelle, thanks so much, and congratulations on what has been a fantastic year for the club and for yourself. Despite the couple of sin binnings, it's been a great year for you and for the team, so well done, and I'm sure we'll be chatting to you between now and the start of next season.
Okay, thanks, Breifne.
Some other notable action in the region this weekend. Sligo Rovers have their last game of the SSE Airtricity League in the showgrounds this Saturday evening. It's their last home game of the campaign and they host Derry City at 7:45 on Saturday evening. Derry City, of course, chasing that European place, while Sligo will be hoping to restore a bit of pride and take another 3 league points in a hope to increase their tally from this season. The County Cross Country Championships take place in St Phelim's, Ballinamore, with that event taking place at 3 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday, and a very big day for everybody involved in athletics in the county. Nominations for the Leitrim Sports Awards are available and are open until next week, so get your nominations in for whoever or whichever team you feel deserve them. The application form is available on leitrimsports.ie, and also in the middle of the Leitrim Observer this week you can find another copy of the form. 2 soccer games this weekend of note. Glencar Manor host Ballinasloe United in the B Park at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, while Carrick Town face the trip to Tubbercurry to play Chaffpool, and that game is at 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoon in the Premier League of the Sligo and Leitrim District League. In rugby, no game for Carrick seniors this weekend, but Sligo are in All-Ireland League action and they travel to the Aviva Stadium to take on local side Wanderers. That game is on Saturday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. And that, folks, is all we have time for this week. Thank you so much to my guests, to Mark Boyle and Liam Moreton ahead of the senior hurling final, to Michelle Heslin and Aidan Heron of the Women's Football Board and St Joseph's, and also to Dearbhaile Beirne, her first time on the show, but surely not her last over the coming weeks and months as she prepares for the FAI Senior Cup final with her Peamount United side. That's it for today, and I will be back tomorrow with a current affair. Talk to you then.